Welcome to another Ziva Math video. Simplifying fractions is a part of every fraction problem you come across, so it's important that you understand how and why the steps work. This is the focus of the beginning sections of this video, and I'll conclude with working some examples. Simplifying a fraction is reducing it to its simplest form. You may hear the terms simplify and reduce used interchangeably because they mean the same thing. A fraction's in its simplest form when the numerator and denominator have no common factors except 1. So if we look at the example 3/9, the 3 and the 9 share a common factor of 3, so 3/9 can be simplified. If you're looking to work through some examples simplifying fractions using the greatest common factor, click on the link in the description below for our video on simplifying fractions using the greatest common factor. The first thing to understand with simplifying is that when you simplify a fraction, you're not changing the value of this fraction at all. So if we look at this first example, I've drawn in the whole and I've divided it into eighths so that we can draw 4/8 and then look at what 4/8 is simplified. So if I'm going to draw 4/8, then I would color in 4 of these 8 boxes. So 4 parts of the whole is what I'm coloring in. So this is what 4/8 looks like, 4 out of the 8 boxes colored in. But if I want to look at it in terms of the whole, what I've actually colored in is half of this whole. I covered in half of the eighths there in my picture. So when I simplify, 4/8 is the same thing as 1/2. So now let's take a look at the second part of the statement. We said that simplifying does not change the value of a fraction because when we simplify a fraction, what we're doing is dividing by 1. So if I look at 2/4, if I go to simplify, I'm going to divide my numerator by 2 and my denominator by 2 because 2 is the greatest common factor of 2 and 4. So 2 divided by 2 is 1 and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. But let's look at what we really did. What we did is we divided by this greatest common factor. We divided the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2. And let's think about doing this as if we divided by a fraction. So the whole that I drew this time, I divided into halves since our denominator of 2 over 2, 2 halves is halves. So if I were to draw the picture, I would color in 2 sections. So I would color in the first half and the second half because I have 2 halves. And so what I end up coloring in is my whole. I've colored in 1. So what ultimately we've done here to simplify 2/4 is we've divided it by 1. So 2/4, we just said equals 1/2. And if we've divided it by 1, then we haven't changed the value at all because a number divided by 1 is still that number. 3 divided by 1 is 3, 7 divided by 1 is 7, 10 divided by 1 is 10. So 2/4 divided by 1 is going to be 2/4. So 2/4 equals 1/2. We haven't changed that value because all we've done is divided by 1. Let's look at a few examples that I will simplify using the greatest common factor. If you need help identifying the greatest common factor, the link to my video on simplifying and using the greatest common factors in the description below, and we'll walk you through these steps in more detail. But let's look at 3/9. My greatest common factor of 3 and 9 is 3. So I'm going to divide my numerator by 3, and I'm going to divide my denominator by 3. I always have to divide my numerator and denominator by the same thing because that way I'm not changing the value of my fraction. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3/9 simplified is equal to 1/3. And again, because I divided my numerator and denominator by the same number, technically I've divided by 1. So I haven't changed the value of 3/9 when I've simplified it. So looking at my next example, 8/16, the greatest common factor of 8 and 16 is 8. So I'm going to divide my numerator by 8, and I'm going to divide my denominator by 8. Dividing them by the same number is essentially dividing by 1, so I'm not changing the value. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 16 divided by 8 is 2. So 8/16 simplifies to 1/2, and they are equivalent fractions. You've not changed the value. Third example, 15/25. My greatest common factor of 15 and 25 is 5. So I'm going to divide my numerator by 5 and my denominator by 5 to simplify. So technically I'm dividing by 1. I'm not changing this value when I simplify. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. So 15/25 simplifies to 3/5. Thank you for joining us. Be sure you like this video and subscribe for more videos by Ziva Math.